Yes, my friends, this is me again. Yeah, yes, your solutions guru, if I can call myself that. Yeah, this is me again, Charles Meto. Yeah, we're still talking about this issues facing our lovely, beloved country, Kenya. The country to me, which is the best place to live in this whole wide world. You know, in as much as a lot of our citizens, a lot of our people want to travel, thinking that if they travel to other parts of the world, life is going to be so much better, life is going to be so much easier. And I really want to emphasize that there is no better place, especially if you're Kenyan, born and bred. There's no better place than your own country. Now, with that in mind, it's not perfect. Of course, we know there's a whole bunch of issues that we need to deal with. Even right now, the economy is down, people are broke, there's no money circulating, yada, 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 boom, 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 a lot of issues. And so when I started this set of videos, for me, it was more like a conversation. It was a lot of things that were burning my heart. And I just felt like just airing my thoughts and sharing them. And maybe along the way, I'll be able to reach out to people who are like-minded, people who maybe were looking for a voice, and others who are willing to offer solutions to, practical, simple, easy things that we can do. Anyway, so the past is the past videos I've talked about, the things that to me are very simple and things that I can relate with, sports and education. But right now, I want to do at least 1, 2, or even 3 videos on culture. Culture to me is something that we need to, first of all, figure out what is Kenyan culture. What is culture, first of all? So here we go. According to the internet, the definition of culture is a way of life of a group of people, the behaviors, beliefs, values, and symbols that they accept generally without thinking. Now, this is something in Google, that somebody wrote. And let me finish. It says, these are things that are passed on by communication and imitation from one generation to the next. In short, culture is a form of symbolic communication. Okay, so why am I going through all this? We need a good culture that is well defined, that we can all relate to, that we can all share, that will result in a more prosperous, and a better Kenya. Now, I don't want people to think that, there are problems that can be solved, unilaterally or permanently. If you look at history for the longest, especially the last 50, 60, 70, 80 years, we've had people go out there and claiming that if we do things one way, it's going to solve all the problems. They came up with all sorts of ideas. Karl Marx with socialism, Adam Smith, capitalism, all these things that we read in history and sometimes we just see on, social media, libraries, wherever we get information from. And one thing I can tell you is this. I can guarantee you there is no one civilization that's ever going to come up with 100% solutions to all problems, because we're human beings. Human beings will always crave new things, even if we have everything. A good example is all these multi-millionaires that are roaming around, especially in the first world countries, Europe, USA, a lot of them. Now, some of the other countries. But what bothers me the most is the ones that you find, in the so-called first world. Because they affect our culture so much. I'm tired of listening to our leaders, especially politicians. Like the other day, they were having a debate about, whatever debate they're having, but they were having a debate about, how men and women should behave in parliament. And I get upset. Seriously, I get upset when I hear everybody wants to quote, examples in the USA. You find a lot of these so-called learned leaders of ours, a lot of these lawyers, sort of lawyer people. And they always say, in England, in France, in India, in China, in the USA, they're giving examples that have nothing to do with Kenya. Literally. It bothers me. I don't know about you. Even when they were having these court cases, there was a time they were, I love our press. Our press really is out there. Nowadays they show what goes on in court. We have all these court cases, especially the ones about elections and all that. And then you have all these super learned individuals, people like Orengo and so on, Muite, all these other people. And they're coming there looking all regal. And the minute they open their mouths, you start wondering, hello, is this what we call learned in Kenya, for real? Because they're out there saying, in India, in London, in America, they do this, they do that. They have this system, they have that system. I'm like, for real? This is what we have. We have lost our culture. We don't have a culture, a Kenyan culture. Literally. That's just my conclusion. Yet, before colonialism, we were 42. Well, okay, it's very difficult. I was trying to Google this idea of 42 tribes. I think now there are 45, because they've added 3 more or 4 more. I don't know. Who knows? Who's keeping track anyway? And then they have these communities they call, like Mijikenda, which basically means 9 houses. And then if you dig further, there's Giriama, there's Digo, there's a whole bunch of these ones. So literally, is that 1 tribe or 9 tribes? The Luyas, they have the Bukusu, the Maragoli. Apparently there are 15 individual tribes within 1 tribe. Of course, we have the Kalenjin, which I'm very familiar with, and apparently we're 8 of us. Nandi, Tugen, Keyo, and the rest. So are we 1 tribe, or are we 8 tribes in this 42? Is this 42 us? Or is this 42, including other people, just because we're similar? Literally, for those who don't know, even when you go to Central Province, you have the Kikuyu, the Embu, the Meru. When you say Mijikenda or Luya or Kalenjin, it's like saying Gema. Even the Akamba, they are very close to the Kikuyus. We could as well call them 1 tribe, the largest tribe. Masai, Samburu, they're very similar. Languages are here, they're similar, I don't know. But each of us had our own individual culture, and that's what I'm trying to get at. Personally, being a Nandi, we had a culture that was unique, even within the Kalenjin. simple things like even dowry, for example. Dowry for us as Nandis is so different from the Keyo, who are our neighbors, or the Kipsigis, the Marakwet. But for those who are looking outside, looking in, they think, oh, Kale. No, we're different. We had different ways of handling our ceremonies, initiation ceremonies, for example, very different. Language, it's unique, very similar, but still, it's got its own uniqueness. Not just the tone, even the words. Some words are just, you find words in one, Kalenjin tribe that don't exist in another, or words in one that mean totally different things in another. So, these cultures, now, as a Kalenjin, we have eight different cultures. So what I'm trying to get at is this. When all these people, I would rather have Orengo stand up in front of Kenya and say, in the Luo culture, we used to tackle issues like this. In the Luya, we had a system of settling disputes by doing ABCD. In Turkana, they had a way of doing things, that was a bit different, but effective. Stop quoting our former colonizers. Stop quoting UK. Stop quoting India, USA. USA, the culture, first of all, is really falling apart. Please, Kenyans, do not. Okay, it's too late now because, when people watch TV, especially our young kids and our parents, we parents now, because I think I'm also, those parent generation, we're not teaching our children that we have our own culture. We don't need to be copying all these other weird cultures, and a lot of these things affect the way we behave, the way we treat each other, and I was thinking right before I made this video, and I was thinking about what am I going to say that's going to touch people's hearts. And let me say this in brief, okay? The most important things about culture is the values that we as individuals have towards each other, how we respect each other when it comes to life, when it comes to individual liberty, honesty, how we treat each other. If we believe in higher power, because I can tell you one thing, even those countries that used to bring us all these religions, and now you go to UK and you find these big, fantastic churches and they're empty. Australia, US. Okay, US in the South, they still have a weird form of Christianity. We'll discuss that another day. Yeah, but a lot of these places that brought us these religions, the religion is gone. But religion itself really didn't go because human beings, we have to believe in something. Yeah? All of us, it doesn't matter whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, you have to believe in something. So what happens is that those who profess not to believe that there's a God end up believing in, a religion of what do I want to say? A religion of self-love. Okay? A religion where, instead of worshiping God, you want to worship feelings. You want to worship, just, what makes you feel good. That is also a religion. And that's what's bringing all these weird things, families falling apart. Nobody wants to, first of all, marriage became so trivialized. You can go to Las Vegas, meet two people or meet somebody on the street. Hey, let's go get married. You go to a small makeshift chapel or a church structure. You find a pastor there. You bring two witnesses and say, hey, we're going to get married right now. And maybe that time you're drunk. You've just come from a party somewhere. You've just met some woman on the street. You marry in the morning. You wake up. You're like, We're actually married. And then now getting divorced becomes a challenge. Because apparently in the US and UK and all these other, countries, the minute you have this thing called marriage, all of a sudden half your property doesn't belong to you anymore, it belongs to the other person somehow. They never participated, or even they don't participate in how you make your money. Maybe you're a doctor, or maybe you're an athlete, maybe you're a lawyer, but somehow you have money, half goes to her. Why? Is she, if you're a lawyer, is she in court with you, presenting cases, determining people's, lives and solving people's problems, and then all of a sudden half of what? Why? But it's the culture. See, that's what we need to emphasize. It's their culture. And now I'm finding that culture is seeping into us, is seeping into our Kenyanness. It's going to destroy us. It's going to destroy us. And here we are trying to figure out basic things, the next meal. Unemployment is just through the roof. Yeah, students are burning schools. Yeah, there's crime everywhere. Corruption. Corruption is part of culture also. When people say, oh, we want to remove corruption. No, you won't, because it's the culture. Our culture is what is creating this self-love, this feeling of the minute you get into a position where you can manipulate funds, public funds, all of a sudden you want to divert those funds to yourself. It's a culture. So if we don't solve this culture issue, and if we don't sit down and determine exactly what our culture should be, what is the backbone of this culture, what is the foundation? And my solution is to reach back into your traditional cultures. Let me give you 2 examples. So in the Nandi culture, of course, we used to keep cattle. And people did have a lot. Some people had maybe 2-3 cows or whatever the case may be. But one of the things I discovered was that, we were loving people. We never used to have fences around our homesteads. It was just a house on a hill, another house over there, another house over there. Similar to, so people would be passing by and someone would stop and say, is anybody there? Hodi, hakuna mtu? And because we knew that people would pass by and maybe they were hungry, we'd have a gourd, a sotet, filled with mursik for passers-by or guests, people who are going to come and maybe you're not around. And we'd put it outside the house by the doorway on a stick hanging there. And anybody who'd be passing by and maybe you're feeling thirsty or hungry, you'd take a sip. Don't drink all of it. We had discipline. You take a few sips, and then you close it. And then to show that you have taken a sip and that you've passed by, you take a blade of grass, those long blades of grass that you can find in those little tufts of grass. You tie it around the strap that's holding the lid. Just tie it there and with a knot and go. Then later on during the day or in the evening, when the owner of the house comes by and they go and grab the sotet, they see, oh, there's about 2 or 3 blades of grass, so we've had 3 visitors that day. Nandi culture. It's like nowadays, if you're going to leave the house, before you close the gate, outside the gate, you put a crate of soda or a crate of water there. And then when somebody passes by, they take a bottle, they drink, and then they leave a note saying, I was here. So at least when you come back and you're like, there's 3 bottles of water missing, so maybe I had 3 guests. Or maybe it was 1 guest, but there were 3 people. Culture. Culture. Of course, now we can go further into, things like initiation ceremonies, marriage, how we do what we call the kaita. Even before that, there's so many steps. Introduction. First of all, you got to figure out this woman you're going to marry. She's from where exactly, who are even related, things that people don't think about these days. You just grab a woman, run to, some church and say, oh, but, you could be marrying your cousin and you don't know. So culture is very important. So I just wanted to touch on that and let people think. I want to introduce this aspect of, what do we need to make Kenya better? Culture is very important. So what about our culture do we need to amend? What do we need to do? How do we need to bring it up? How do we need to discuss it? And for me, the first and foremost important thing, starting with our leaders, is whenever you're trying to find a solution or an example where you're trying to, legislate, or you're in court, or you're in public, and you're trying to let people know that this is the way this thing should be resolved, or these are the solutions we should, apply to whatever situation or problem that we're trying to, fix. Let's us have our people saying, reaching back to their own cultures. Forget about these Europeans and these Americans and these Russians and India. I'm tired. I don't want to hear any more lawyers saying, in India, in Hong Kong, in Singapore, and then feeling so, it's like they're so knowledgeable. Oh, I know things that you don't know. That's why I'm charging you 100,000 shillings per hour. Because I can quote England law, I can quote French law, I can quote American law. Americans, these people, they're not perfect. They're even worse off than us, culturally. Economically, they're figured it out. And that's where I want us to be. If we can figure out the economic part of our problems, all these other things will fall into place. Let them copy us. Yeah? Let them say in Kenya, because most people don't even know what Kenya is. If it wasn't for people like, Kipchoge, Eliud, and all these athletes of ours, half of the world would have no idea who's Kenya's where. It's like telling somebody Gabon, Cameroon, they don't know where these countries are. If it wasn't for all these coups and all this fighting in West Africa, people would have no idea what the capital of Mali is. They wouldn't even know that there was a country called Mali. Mali, yani Mali yangu. No. Kuna nchi inaitwa Mali. Yeah? Na wote ni maskini, hawana do. Si wabadilishe jina, sijui. Yeah. Bamako, Ouagadougou, all these countries, all these cities, all these capitals, most people don't know. Yeah, so let us talk about this if we have a chance. Let's discuss this. For those of you followers that I have, and I really appreciate the ones who take time to watch my, 20 to 30 minute videos. I'm trying to keep them short, if you notice, because I have this propensity to talk. I can talk for like 3 hours, and I don't think we're there yet. There are some shows that on the internet are 3 hours long, but we'll get there eventually. Maybe when I have guests and we have a forum and we're sitting, But right now I'm just a one-man show. Yeah, but yeah, let's think about this. Yeah, let's delve deeper. Into our culture, the way our culture used to be, how we used to solve our problems, how we used to deal with, day-to-day issues. And let's not forget, because, think about it, especially, let me talk about myself. I'm 100% Nandi. Nandis have been around thousands of years. So there have been situations that have, unfolded in day-to-day life, and people have tried different solutions through trial and error, and they've come up with a culture. This is how we deal with this issue, If there's a problem in a marriage, this is how we deal with it. You know? If there's a child that needs to be disciplined, this is how we deal with it. And because of that system that people have used, and you know, over time they know this works, this doesn't work. Stick to that. And then by the time we're traveling abroad, we're going to go to different places, you know, even if you're living Nandi County, you're going to, you know, Mombasa or whatever, you have a grounding. You can go there and see people, the way they behave, and you're like, no, that's not me. You know, and then slowly when we reach into our own cultures, then we can develop now a pure Kenyan culture that is not only unique, but is beneficial. Beneficial. That we can use to solve problems instead of reaching out to all these weird, you know, I mean, like I said in my first video, we got independence. But are we really independent? If we still have to quote the law and the traditions and the cultures of those who colonized us, these people who, when they see us, they hate us just because we're, you know, different looking, you know, funny looking hair, you know, a bit of a suntan, whatever reason they have for disliking us. And then here we are running after them. Oh, you know, the way they do this. No, they don't. Leave them alone. Wachana now. Yeah? Kama tuko na uhuru, you know, tukue watu wana huru. And we solve our own problems according to our own individual cultures. And then we have a mix. You know, if Nandis do things a certain way and it works, and then the Luos do things a certain way and it works, and then we can mix the two, and then the Kikuyus come with their own issues. We leave the bad ones, with Mungiki and all that, wachana na hiyo. But the good parts, bring it in, you know. Yeah, because we all have good and bad. Bring the Somalis in kidogo, they have a good way of sorting out issues. Wachana mambo ya Shifta na Al-Shabaab, wachana hiyo kando, leave that alone. But the good stuff, and then we now start quoting our own cultures, our own peoples, and say, this is how problems were solved in Marsabit. They had the Rendile, when this issue used to come up, this is how they used to do it, and it used to work. And that's it. So thank you for listening to this week's